Not limited to building more warships or inducting stealth fighters into service, Beijing is carrying out a comprehensive reform of its military system, aimed at preparing for a long-term strategic competition with the United States. So, from a Western perspective, how is this reform actually unfolding? Objectives of the reform. From a Western assessment, China's military reform is driven by three main motivations. First, in order to realize the Chinese dream, China seeks to build a world-class military. Second, the reform aims to address what are seen as serious political risks within the armed forces. Third, it seeks to enhance combat capability, gradually narrow the gap with the United States, and rebalance military power in the context of long-term strategic competition. So, from a Western perspective, how is China's military reform actually being implemented? Sharp increase in defense spending. Beijing announced a 2025 defense budget of around 249 billion US dollars, up about 7.2% from the previous year. However, Western research organizations argue that China's actual military spending is significantly higher than the officially reported figure. China's real defense outlays are widely assessed to have more than doubled between 2015 and 2025, growing much faster than those of other major powers. Meanwhile, total military spending by NATO in 2025 is estimated at around 1.5 trillion US dollars, accounting for more than half of global military expenditure and still about 5 times higher than China's. The United States alone continues to lead, with more than 901 billion US dollars devoted to defense. These figures indicate that China's defense spending is rising rapidly, but the gap with the West remains very large. From a Western perspective, China's increasingly tough responses in foreign and security policy come as a surprise to many Western analysts. Strengthening air power, naval power, air and missile defense, and nuclear deterrence. The rapid modernization of China's military is most clearly reflected in the pace at which it is commissioning large surface combatants, aircraft carriers, next-generation stealth aircraft, and long-range strike systems. China has continued to expand its fleet of modern destroyers, place domestically built aircraft carriers on operational duty, publicly field the J-20 stealth fighter, and accelerate testing of hypersonic weapons. However, the area of greatest concern for Western countries today lies in the nuclear domain. According to the Washington Post, China is building a large network of intercontinental ballistic missile ICBM silos in desert areas of Gansu province. Satellite imagery shows hundreds of construction sites with features similar to existing nuclear missile facilities, widely seen as a historic shift in both the scale and structure of China's nuclear deterrent force. Data from the Stockholm International Peace Research Institute indicate that China's nuclear warhead stockpile has grown steadily in recent years, and many assessments suggest that the number could at least double over the next decade. At the same time, China's missile forces are expanding rapidly in both the number of brigades and deployment infrastructure, with a significant portion oriented toward key strategic directions such as the Taiwan Strait and the South China Sea. This growth in nuclear and missile capabilities is reshaping the regional deterrence balance in the Indo-Pacific. From a Western perspective, Beijing is building a relatively comprehensive strategic deterrence posture, combining a blue water navy, long-range air power, hypersonic missiles, and nuclear forces, sufficient to challenge the long-standing military superiority of the United States and its allies. Expanding overseas military bases. China's expansion of its military presence abroad is widely seen as a key step in supporting the People's Liberation Army Navy's ambition to deploy forces on a global scale. According to the outlet erx.ru, China has completed a pier more than 330 meters long at its naval base in Djibouti, located near the Bab el-Mandeb Strait. Satellite imagery analysis also indicates that Beijing is continuing to expand port infrastructure at this facility. Meanwhile, the Wall Street Journal, citing U.S. officials, has reported that China and Cambodia are believed to have reached a secret agreement granting Beijing long-term access to the Reem naval base near Phnom Penh. In addition, China is establishing logistics hubs and potential military facilities in a range of countries stretching from Southeast Asia and South Asia to the Middle East and Africa. From a Western perspective, this overseas network of bases and logistical footholds, though still far less extensive than that of the United States, suggests that China is gradually laying the groundwork for a genuine expeditionary force aimed at protecting its global interests and expanding its strategic influence in the Xi Jinping era. focusing on organizational reform within the PLA. Xi Jinping believes that the PLA's old organizational model has become outdated and is no longer suited to the requirements of modern warfare or to the integration of advanced, high technology weapon systems. The core objective of the reform is to build true joint operations capability by linking the Army, Navy, and Air Force under a unified command structure. Accordingly, since 2016, China has dissolved its former 7 military regions and replaced them with 5 theater commands, each led by a single, unified command authority. At the same time, the PLA has been restructured to reduce the relative role of the ground forces while increasing the weight of the Navy and the Air Force, reflecting a growing priority on maritime and air domain conflict scenarios. Western analysts have paid particular attention to the creation of the Strategic Support Force and the PLA Rocket Force. The Strategic Support Force is responsible for space, cyber, and electronic warfare, and is designed to exploit adversaries' vulnerabilities, especially their dependence on satellites, information networks, and command and control systems. The Rocket Force, meanwhile, has been built as the core pillar of long-range strike capability focused on strategic targets. However, from a Western perspective, the reorganization of the PLA is not intended solely to improve operational effectiveness. It also serves a central political objective, strengthening the Chinese Communist Party's absolute control over the military. Through tighter discipline, anti-corruption campaigns, personnel reshuffles, and the restructuring of the command system, Beijing is reinforcing a highly centralized control model, ensuring that the PLA is both militarily modernized and politically loyal. From a Western perspective, China's military reform is not simply about modernizing weapons, but about a comprehensive restructuring, spanning organization, operational doctrine, and political control, aimed at preparing for a long-term strategic competition. This reform process is still ongoing, and its impact will continue to shape the balance of power in the Asia-Pacific region for many years to come. Thank you for watching Global Military Update.